Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty fundamental.
We really are. It's about the nature of self, of reality itself.
Yeah, and you've brought research that digs into the non-dual perspective on spiritual awareness. This challenges some really deep assumptions.
It definitely does.
So our mission today is to unpack this source material. It lays out a journey, really subtle, kind of paradoxical, about perception, moving through these layers, until we get to this idea that even awareness, something we think is fundamental, might not be the ultimate reality.
Right. It sounds abstract, but think about it. In everyday life, we define ourselves constantly, don't we? By thoughts, jobs, feelings.
Absolutely. My thoughts are me. That's the default.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this deep dive, pulling from traditions like Advaita Vedanta, Zen, it basically dismantles that foundation.
Okay. So let's unpack this journey. Where does it suggest people usually start?
Well, most people begin in what the texts call ordinary awareness.
Ordinary awareness.
Okay. This is that default mode you mentioned,
Yeah.
where the sense of self feels totally fused with whatever's happening, mentally, physically.
Like, I am stressed or I am happy. There's no gap.
Precisely. My thoughts, my emotions, my body sensations, they are me. It's automatic identification.
Okay, so that's the starting point. Then what's the first big shift? The research talks about a first stage of, well, enlightenment.
Yes, the first major step is realizing what's called witness awareness.
Witness awareness.
It's subtle at first, but it's a radical shift. You start to see that thoughts, emotions, beliefs, sensations, they're happening, sure, but they aren't your core essence.
Ah, so you're observing them, like watching clouds pass.
Kinda, yeah. They arise, they do their thing, they pass away. But the you that's watching isn't defined by them. It's like you stop being an actor lost in the play, and you become someone watching the stage. There's a bit of distance.
And the benefit there seems pretty clear. More freedom.
Huge freedom.
Yeah.
Suddenly you see that intense feeling, maybe anger on the road or frustration with an email.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. You see it arising in your awareness, but it's not the totality of who you are. And that space, it lets you respond instead of just reacting.
What creates spaciousness? That's a great way to put it.
That spaciousness is key. Witness awareness lets you see the mind's habits, its automatic programs. You start to disidentify from those patterns. That brings clarity, relief. Honestly, for many seekers, this feels like the goal. Like, I've arrived.
Okay, here's the kicker. If the witness state brings so much relief, why do these texts insist we need to go beyond it? Why let go of the witness? It sounds like throwing away the lifeboat.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's what really defines the non-dual path versus just, say, advanced mindfulness.
Okay.
The research is crystal clear. Witness awareness, however helpful, is still fundamentally dualistic.
Dualistic.
Yeah.
Meaning two separate things.
Exactly. It relies on a subject, the witness, the I am aware feeling, and an object, the thought, the emotion being watched.
I see. So there's still an I and a that.
Yes. You've essentially created a new, more subtle identity, the identity of the observer, the watcher. It's like a lens.
A lens, filtering experience.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It separates me, the watcher, from my experience, which is watched. But non-dual realization says ultimate reality isn't a relationship between two things. It requires removing all filters, all separation.
Okay. So if the witness state has this subtle separation, this is where things get really counterintuitive, right? Moving beyond the witness.
This is where the ground starts to shift under your feet, conceptually speaking.
Yeah. The non-dual realization goes beyond witness awareness. It actually targets that very feeling of I am aware.
It dissolves the whole subject-object structure. And here's the core paradox the texts point out.
Okay, lay it on us.
To even be aware of awareness itself? Think about it. How do you do that?
I guess I just feel that I'm aware.
Right, but how do you know that feeling is awareness? Mind has to step in. It relies on memory, recalling being conscious a split second ago, and then it slaps on a label. Yes, awareness. I am aware.
So the knowing of awareness is a concept, not the awareness itself.
The labeling of it is.
Yeah.
The act of recognizing and naming awareness brings back duality. It separates awareness from whatever is doing the recognizing.
And awareness feels so primary.
Yeah.
So real. How can it just be a concept? Is there an analogy in the notes?
There's a good one about light. Imagine pure objectless light. It's just light everywhere.
Okay.
The moment you introduce a lens or even just your eye trying to see the light as a separate thing, you're not experiencing pure light anymore. You're experiencing light filtered through the mechanism of seeing, through a concept. Okay, the text suggests the feeling I am aware is like that lens. It's a sensation maybe followed instantly by a mental label trying to capture and own that seamless reality.
Wow. Okay.
And that leads to the really profound bit. Even awareness is not ultimate reality, that I am aware, since it's seen as conceptual, a mental construct.
So if you remove the label,
if you could somehow stop the labeling, the claiming, everything, including what seemed like the I am, is just seen as part of one indivisible, non-dual whole. The sense of a separate, foundational awareness, it just dissolves. It's seen as empty, not a solid base.
that sounds incredibly destabilizing. If the core sense of I am is seen as just a temporary label, what stops someone from just checking out? If awareness isn't the ground, what is?
That's a really important point. And this perspective corrects what many see as a subtle trap in spiritual seeking.
Which is?
Elevating awareness or consciousness or presence, making that the ultimate separate reality.
But isn't that what many paths teach? Find pure consciousness?
Some do, but the non-dual insight says any division is illusory. If reality can't truly be split into knower and known, then putting awareness on a pedestal as the ultimate thing is still thinking dualistically. Awareness, self, objects, they're all seen as temporary appearances, waves on the same ocean, basically.
So the journey isn't about gaining some ultimate awareness state, but more about seeing through layers of what we are not.
Exactly. It's a progressive disidentification. The research lays out a kind of roadmap, 4 main stages.
Okay, let's walk through those. What are the steps?
Well, the first couple are familiar to anyone who's done mindfulness or basic self-inquiry. Step 1, disidentification from self aspects.
Right, seeing thoughts and feelings as just content, not me.
Yeah, I'm not my anger. Step 2, disidentification from reactivity. Recognizing those automatic knee-jerk reactions are just mental programs, not fundamental truths.
Okay, makes sense. Then it gets more radical.
Then it gets much more radical. Step 3 is what we've been digging into. Disidentification from awareness itself.
The big one. Realizing the I am is illusory, just a concept.
A momentary mental event, not some eternal foundation. That's the pivot out of fundamental duality.
And there's a 4th step.
Yes. And this is perhaps the most abstract. The notes call it disidentification from all knowing.
From knowing. What does that mean? That we know nothing.
Cudmler. It's not quite saying we know nothing in a skeptical way. It's more about realizing the inherent limits of language and concepts.
Ah, okay, like words can't capture the whole picture.
Exactly, but taken to its absolute conclusion. If knowing requires a knower and a known, and you've seen through the knower, the self.
Then the whole structure of knowing collapses.
In a fundamental sense, yes. The idea of possessing definite knowledge dissolves. Everything, this conversation, your thoughts, the world, it feels real. But ultimately, it's seen as, well, the text sees terms like unreal or illusory in that ultimate sense, not graspable by mind.
So, not radical doubt about whether the chair exists, but seeing that our concept of the chair, our knowing of it, is limited and part of the appearance.
That's a good way to put it. Knower, knowing, known, all arise together as appearances within the indivisible reality.
Which is why, at this stage, questions like, who am I, start to lose their meaning.
Because there's no separate I left to ask or answer.
Precisely. Who is asking? Who would know? Wow. Okay, that is a massive conceptual journey. From just watching thoughts to seeing through the watcher and even through knowing itself. Let's bring this back down to earth. For someone listening, what are the actual tangible effects of realizing this? That even awareness isn't separate.
It sounds incredibly abstract, but the implications are deeply practical.
Yeah.
When that core illusion of a separate self dissolves, the way you relate to everything changes. The struggle starts to fall away.
Okay, let's break down those benefits from the source material. First one mentioned is freedom from suffering.
Yes, because suffering fundamentally comes from attachment.
Yeah.
Right? Attachment to who we think we are, what we think should happen, even attachment to being the aware one. When that identification dissolves, the root of that attachment is cut. Pain might still happen, physical or emotional, but the suffering, the mental resistance and story around the pain loses its fuel.
Okay, that's huge. What else?
Second, it fosters profound acceptance and interconnectedness. Think about all the ways we judge others, the requirements we place on them.
They should act this way. I deserve to be treated like that.
Exactly. Non-dual insight reveals those are just conceptual frameworks built by the separate self, the ego. They aren't inherent truths. When you see there's no fundamental separation between you and them, those demands just don't make sense anymore.
So less conflict, more ease in relationships.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yes. Because the basis for the conflict, me versus you, is seen through.
And the third practical benefit, you mentioned embodiment.
Right. This is key. When there's no separate observer self, sitting back, judging, comparing, worrying, needing to defend itself.
That little judge in the head.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
When he's seen as illusory, life isn't witnessed from a distance anymore. It's simply lived, embodied. You are the experiencing. Action arises naturally, spontaneously, without needing a defined actor pulling the strings.
So it's not detachment, it's actually fuller engagement.
In a sense, yes, full engagement without the filter of the separate self.
So spiritual awareness, the witness stage, it's like a necessary doorway.
It's a crucial tool, a gateway. It helps break the initial fusion with thoughts and feelings, but it's not the final destination.
The final step is letting go of the tool itself.
Letting go of the attachment to the tool, to being the aware one. That's what reveals this unbounded, infinite, embodied reality that the texts point to, which is ultimately beyond any concept, even awareness.
What a journey. Okay, so we started with just ordinary awareness, feeling fused with everything.
Total identification.
Progressed through the witness stage, gaining clarity, but still dualistic subject-watching object.
Right, that crucial separation.
And then ended with this non-dual realization where everything, self, awareness, objects, even the act of knowing, is seen as just appearances within one indivisible totality.
That's the arc described in these sources. Yeah.
Okay, so before we wrap up, let's leave our listeners with that provocative thought you mentioned, drawn from the research.
Right. So if the deepest realization involves seeing through the eye, seeing through the concept of a separate knower, and if truth itself can't be grasped or referred to by a separate mind, then the research poses this question. What purpose does deep self-inquiry, like asking, who am I, actually serve at that point?
If there's no eye to find and no truth to grasp.
Exactly. What drives questioning then? And maybe even more fundamentally, how does action even happen? How do you decide to, say, get out of bed if there's no defined self with goals or intentions driving it?
Action without an actor, questioning without a questioner.
Something to ponder. Where does the impulse come from, if not from a separate me? That's something to reflect on until our next deep dive.